It's the morning drive.
Good morning, and welcome to the Morning Drive. I'm your host, Brooks Fiesinger of BrooksFiesinger.com and MillionaireWho.com, where we help you stabilize your wallet, secure your future, and succeed in entrepreneurship and finance. I'm back to the Hyundai Sonata today after a fun, exciting weekend driving some other vehicles. All right, let's get on the road. So today we're going to be talking about, that Energizer Bunny concept, or the idea of persistence and how important persistence really is. I always enjoy the Energizer Bunny concept. You've got this bunny in these commercials that's sitting there and just keeps going no matter what happens. And no matter what path you take, whether it's an entrepreneurship or a career or any path that you take, persistence is an underlying factor that is essential to seeing success in that field. And it is something that I've noticed, no matter where I look. Anyone I look at who's successful, there's instance after instance after instance of persistence. And I guess the big question that I have is I don't understand why so many people are so quick to quit. And I've had 2 emails in my email box this week from people who I was working with on their companies, and both of them said, one of them said that they quit because they're not seeing the results they want, and the other person said that they regretted quitting because somebody else took their idea and made it big, and after someone else took their idea and made it big, they realized that if they would have not quit, they would have ended up seeing amazing results from their project that they had started. And they started this project like 2 years ago, and then they quit. And again, if they would have, been persistent and stayed with it, then instead of this other company becoming successful, they would have been the one successful. And so the idea behind here is, no matter where you are, you need to engage this concept of the Energizer Bunny. You need to figure out how to just keep going and keep going, and fire yourself, motivate yourself up, and just make it happen. And that's kind of the slogan we talk about here: just make the impossible happen. You've got to keep going to make it happen, even though there's going to be roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, doing everything you can to keep you from being able to do it. The real challenge with this Energizer Bunny concept, or this idea of persistence, is that it's difficult. It's difficult. There's so many reasons, and good reasons often, to quit or to stop doing what we're doing. And yet, no matter how many books I read or how many successful people I talk to, persistence is a key reason listed or stated for their ability to succeed. And I understand what's going on. Last week, we talked about how my Ferrari broke down. And because my Ferrari broke down, I wasn't going to be able to be part of this program that I really want to be part of on Saturday. A lot of people would have quit. Quitting is easy in that situation, right? You've got a good excuse, use your good excuse and quit and get on with your life and gripe about it. I'm not here to gripe. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to complain. What I'm trying to show you is that I didn't quit, and it's not about quitting. NJB Automotive was gracious enough to let me borrow their Maserati so I could still partake in the event. Was it as good as the Ferrari? No. Do I wish I had the Ferrari? Of course I do. But things don't always work out, and you got to persevere. You got to go through anyway. You got to make it happen. And that seems like such a silly, simple idea, but those are the type of little things that keep hitting you down and down and down and down and down. So when your car breaks down, you still got to get to work. You still got to go see things through. You can't use that as a reason not to. We were working part of another project, and I can't mention the name right now because it's not out yet, but we had been building this technical solution for a year. I've been spending a year building this really cool system. I was really excited for what it could do, and we were making a ton of progress, even talking about release. And we had the worst case scenario possible happen to the system. And what I mean is the database somehow got corrupted, the backup got corrupted, and we lost everything. We lost everything we built for a year, and I don't even know how that could have happened. We had taken precautions. We were making backups. And, we went in to do an update to the system, and in doing the update to the system, we created this corruption. The corruption got backed up. It was a nightmare. And here we invested in a year of our lives trying to get this project rolling. And we were so excited to see this thing come to fruition. And we were, working hard, making this happen, finally getting ready to market, and like that, it's gone. I mean, totally and utterly gone. The entire project imploded. I don't mean a small piece of it. I mean, we are going to have to completely start from scratch on a blank server with nothing, right? With nothing. We're going to have to start over from scratch. And this is one of the worst instances that I've ever faced of, complete and utter collapse. It's not even failure like there's no market. I mean, there is a market. We're ready to do this. We're excited to do this. And what happens? The project implodes because of technical challenges. So, when this kind of thing happens, what do? And honestly, we had about, 2 meetings where we sat there and said, this stinks. What are we going to do? We got to try to figure out a way to restore it. And finally, in the third meeting, we buckled down and said, all right, it's gone. It's gone, right? That's a fact. It is what it is. And there's nothing we can do about that. So, okay, let's grovel and complain for a little while because everyone feels a little better. Then let's, stand back up, put our boots back on, get back on the horse, and get back out there, right? Get back out there. The market doesn't care that you had bad luck. Nobody out there cares that you had bad luck. Oh, pity me. Cheer, my life is awful. Oh, I was going to be so successful in life, and then my hard drive Who cares, right? Who cares? Nobody cares. So why do you care? Right? If nobody else cares that I had these problems, why should I care that I had these problems? I should learn from them, right? If I can learn from those mistakes and learn from those problems, awesome. Learn from them, improve them, make sure they don't happen. But what happened. It's done. There's nothing I can do about it. There's no more control I have over the situation. I lost it. We lost it. And now that we lost it, what's our next step? And through the whole process, we reaffirmed the market was there. The demand was there. It needs to come to market. So if we need to know it needs to go to market and it implodes, then we're getting back on the horse and we're doing it again. We're going back at it. And it shouldn't take a year because we figured out how to solve a lot of problems. And it shouldn't have some of the drawbacks it had because we learned from it. And in fact, the new version is going to be better than the original version because we did learn. And we'll get there faster because we did learn. And it's going to be awful because we're going to lose a lot of our efforts, and there were definitely places where we should have had better backups of codes and whatnot, and we didn't. We learned from that, and so we'll have a code repository to make sure we're storing backups, and we'll have a backup of that backup. And I'm sure 20 years from now, someone's going to be like, hey, why does this company have these absolute ridiculous levels of backup requirements? And it's going to all come down to the fact that we were a year late to market because our backups failed. And you don't want them to fail again. And so you got to learn from those and get back on the horse. And again, I've seen many, if not most, small businesses and startups that face these kind of issues will walk away. They will quit. Quitting is the number one way, in my opinion, to fail. It's a guaranteed way to fail, right? If you quit, you have no chance of succeeding. And every single project, every single business, and every single idea has at least some days or some components of it that make it seem worthwhile to quit. Everything, every business I've been part of, there's been a day where I said, maybe we should quit. And so if you think maybe you should quit, that's okay. But the kicker is that you don't, right? You just got to make sure you don't. It's persistence. You got to stick through it. This entire Millionaire Who project was a complete collapse 10 years ago. And yet I refused to kill it. I refused to let it die. And because I refused to let it die, it lived on, and it's now taking on a wonderful second life. Because I was persistent and I refused to let it die. And that's what you need to do. You need to refuse to let your projects and ideas die. You got to be relentless. Just totally relentless. You can't quit. You just have to keep plowing through. And you need people to look at you and think you're crazy because you keep on plowing through. Because most people are quitters. But you're not most people, because if you're most people, then go take your $33,000 a year job and live in debt your entire life and make nothing of yourself, right? Go be average. No, you don't want to be average. If you don't want to be average, it starts with persistence. Persistence. Stop quitting. Quit quitting. I like that. Quit quitting. Seriously, I mean, you just got to keep going. The going will be tough. You will want to quit. Your muscles will hurt. Your wallet will be drained. And yet you cannot quit, because when you quit, you failed. When you quit, you failed. If you don't quit, you haven't failed yet, right? You didn't fail until you quit. This system could completely collapse again, but if I don't quit, I didn't fail. Failure is only when you quit. If you didn't quit yet, you didn't fail. And that's why so many successful people went bankrupt and yet came back and ended up being uber successful. They're uber successful because they didn't quit. The only time you fail is when you quit. So don't quit. Be persistent. See it through. I'll give you some other examples. I was recently acquiring a commercial property, and this commercial property was a home run. I mean, it was literally the most profitable, revenue-driven deal that I've ever seen in my life. And just a killer home run. So I talked to a bank, and the bank tells me, okay, this is such a good deal. They will give me 90% LTV, which means I need to put 10% down to buy this. Great. This is perfect. Everything aligns and everything's good. So I put an offer on the place, get the place, buy the place, and going through everything with the bank, and the bank comes back and says, yeah, we're actually going to need 80%. Or we're going to give you 80%. We need 20% down, not 10% down. I was like, shoot. I had done all my math. I had done all my planning on this 10% down they had promised. But again, I know this is a good deal, so I sit there and say, okay, I'm going to find a way to make this work. And I, played around a little bit, moved some money around, and said, okay, I can do 20% down. To my incredible astonishment and disappointment, the bank came back again with the final commitment and said, you're only going to get the commitment if you're willing to do 25% down. Now, 25% down isn't unrealistic for a lot of deals and opportunities. Not at all. In fact, it may be more common than 80% or 20% down, and maybe way more common than 10% down. I mean, 10% is pretty rare. So it might not seem like it's a big issue, but the issue is I had made the numbers work at 10% down. Now that you're asking for 25% down, that's 250% more money I need to come to the table with. In this particular situation, I don't have the money. So I had the 20%, I don't have the 25. So I've got a little bit of a gap here. And I don't, the bank knows my numbers, so I'm surprised they even extended it at 25%, knowing I didn't have the 25%. But I can only expect that the banker who's worked with me for quite a while has more faith in me than some people might. And he knows that I'll have the money. He knows that I'll be able to get the 25% down. And that's kind of one of those funny traits of a lot of entrepreneurs is they're going to be able to do it even before they know how they're going to do it. Where there's other people that even when they show you how they're going to do it, you still don't believe them. But there's people that they're going to be able to do it even though they don't know how or you don't know how. And this is a great example, right? So I accepted the deal at 25%. I I griped about it. I tried to get him to go back to 20. I couldn't get him to do it. But I'm going to take the deal at 25. It's a no-brainer. I can't, it would be certainly awful for me if I turned it down. I could complain and say, well, it was better at 20%. Sure, it was better at 20%. But at 25% down, it's still one of the most amazing deals I faced. And I would be a complete and utter fool to turn it down. But while I'd be a fool to turn it down, that doesn't solve the problem of actually getting the 25% down that I've got to get. So, even to this day, to this moment, I'm not sure where that entire 25% down is going to come from. But I'm moving forward with everything because I'm confident I'll find a way to get it. And this ends up being the benefit of being a persistent person, is that when you continually are persistent on things, then you start proving to yourself that you're going to follow through, right? Not only do you prove to other people, so other people are like, oh yeah, he's someone who follows through, you prove to yourself that you're somebody who somehow follows through every time. So every time things like the server failures and things like the lack of capital and stuff like that faces itself, it's not going to stop you. You're the Energizer Bunny. You're going to just keep on going. You're going to keep on going. You're going to keep on going. You're going to see it through fruition. You're going to make it happen. So that server situation earlier, we're going to keep on going. We're going to make it happen. We got an unfortunate delay, but it's going to happen. With this 25% down situation, guess what? It's going to happen. I'm going to have that 25% down. I'm going to close, and I'm going to make it happen. Can't tell you exactly how this minute, but I'll find a way. Spent a little bit of time last night looking into options. I'm going to make it happen. That's what persistence is all about, right? You don't let hurdles, hiccups, and things like that keep you from seeing success. There's no room for that. There's no room for quitting. You got to keep going. Got to keep going. You've got to make it happen. There's always going to be loads of reasons not to make it happen. I'll tell you right now, I could have quit on that server thing. I also could have quit on this acquisition. And most people would say, makes sense. You didn't have the money. Good reason to quit. You lost all your work. Good reason to quit. But then what would I have? What would I have if I quit on both those things? What would I have? I'd have nothing. I would have nothing but a pile of excuses. And if I have nothing but a pile of excuses, how am I going to be successful, right? How do you have a business if you don't found the business? How do you have real estate if you don't buy the real estate? How do you have passive income if you don't buy assets? It's pretty simple if you think about it. None of this is complex. You can't. You've got to make it happen. And there's always going to be reasons not to make it happen. Somebody's going to give you a million reasons not to do it. But if you listen to those reasons not to do it, you're destined for failure. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to sit there and say, oh, but why is somebody else successful and I'm such a failure? You're a failure because you're lazy and you're not persistent. You quit. You quit. Nobody has an easy path. Nobody does. Nobody has it easy. Nobody does. Every single person around you that's successful, every single one of them had plenty of reasons to quit. But you know what? They didn't. They didn't quit. They made it happen anyway. They kept on going. And that's what you need to do. And I don't care if it's starting a business, if it's starting a blog, if it's writing a book, if it's, showing up to work as your employer, if it's working on some project with your boss. I don't care what you're doing. There's always going to be a million reasons to quit. But again, the only way you fail is if you quit. It's the only way you can fail. You quit, you fail. If you don't quit, you don't fail. So when you think of failures are always because you quit. Always because you quit. And even in one of the first episodes when I talked about my biggest failure, the only reason it was a failure is because I eventually quit. And sometimes I wonder if I should have quit there. Sometimes you do, but in that case, I probably shouldn't have, but I did. Do I want to revive it? No, I've got some other better things going on right now. But you can't quit. You got to keep on being persistent. Those aren't the only examples. I mean, I could probably go through my life and come up with just hordes of examples. One thing's consistent, there's always great reasons to quit. We have these dog daycare and boarding facilities. And I'm pretty excited about them just because I love dogs and they're pretty good. And they don't make a ton of money, but they pay for the real estate, and that's kind of the kicker, right? So you're at least acquiring real estate. But I absolutely love dogs, and I love to see people excited about the dogs, and I love to have a place to drop my own dog off to play. Go to daycare and boarding. And I was thinking about early on, and we opened up another location not too long ago. And when we opened up the other location, it was so simple. I mean, it was like, okay, we sign on the dotted line, we get the new location, we move operations over there. Oh wow, look, our next location's open and running. But then I was thinking back at the first location, and the first location was so much more difficult because we stretched ourselves to buy it, and so we had to cut a few corners, and not any corners with the business operations, but corners with things like the building. For the first year, we didn't have a heater. I mean, how silly is that? We couldn't afford a heater. We literally couldn't afford a heater. So you're like, okay, we can't have dogs out there in the heat. So we rented a propane heater from a rental yard and heated the entire place with propane tanks for the entire winter. And it kept the dogs safe, and it kept everything technically fine. But if you really sit down and think about it, you'll realize that, when you're literally on the strings and unable to afford heat for your facility, doesn't that make you want to quit? I mean, you sit there and say, look, we're not making money. We're barely able to cover our costs. We can't afford to maintain this building. I mean, this is just dire. I mean, this is, what did we get ourselves into? What are we doing right here? I mean, we had a great idea, but we spent the money that we have. We don't have any more money to spend, and this place needs support and it needs help, and we can't make it happen. And the funny thing about this is, like many stories like that, it just took about 2 years later, and you're looking back and saying, okay, put a new HVAC system in there. I write a check for $40,000. Oh, there you go, right? And 2 years doesn't seem like a long time, but 2 years was enough to go from, oh my gosh, we're broke and can't make things happen, to we're doing well enough that we've got no problem to make the expense payments that we need to make. Capital expense concerns are gone. All right, if something breaks and something needs work, we fix it. And we hire someone to fix it. At first, we were bootstrapping everything. I mean, I was over there doing my own electrical, I was doing my own drywall, we were doing our own paint, we were doing our own plumbing. I mean, I spent weekend after weekend down there running plumbing because our plumbing pipes were blowing up. I mean, literally, we had broken plumbing pipes, we had electrical problems, we had, leaks, we had so many issues, we didn't have heat. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, gosh, you would have thought that we were crazy. And a lot of people who do see success in entrepreneurship are told that they were crazy at one time or the other. If you're not told you're crazy, you're probably doing something wrong. And this sounds utterly insane that we're trying to run this business when we can't even take care of ourselves. But again, just 2 years later after that, it was hilarious, because then all of a sudden, all those major concerns we had in that bootstrapping effort were relieved. I mean, it's literally just, 2 years isn't that long until our persistence totally paid off, because we knew it was a good opportunity. And so therefore we kept our eyes on the prize, and we said, look, we're going to make it happen. We're not going to make, excuses and quit. We're going to make it happen. And so then when, once we had made it happen and we were successful, then when we had the opportunity to open up another location, we knew how to do it. We had confidence in ourselves. The bank had confidence in us now because we had already proven that we could do the business. And we had enough money and leverage in our original business to go buy something we could have never bought at the beginning. I mean, we leveraged ourselves like crazy to buy a small commercial property a couple of years ago, and now we can buy a large, beautiful facility and literally not even think twice about it. I mean, it was like a month ordeal to choose it, to buy it, to get everything done. And the day-to-day operations in the second location are straightforward. I mean, we don't have to put nearly as much effort into it as we did the first. Now, there's other people involved. We've got managers and stuff like that involved that are amazing and do hard work. So there's still hard work, and they're facing challenges every day too. I don't want to say that there's not challenges they're facing, and they need to be persistent every day. But from a macro level business standpoint, the parallels are just incredible for me. I mean, as I said, you go from, should we close our doors because I don't know how we're going to pay the heat bill this month. And in fact, people talk about not being able to pay the heat bill. We didn't even have a heater. Think about that for a minute. Like we didn't know how to pay the heat bill, and we didn't even have a system to provide heat. So we didn't know we were going to have to go rent a heater just to heat the place to get us through to the next month. And then by the time we got to winter, we're thinking, okay, shoot, we don't even have an air conditioning unit. And how are we going to keep it cool during summer? And so we purchased some small little units and put those all over the place because once again, we could afford these units one by one, and the temperature was kept safe and everything was kept safe, and we somehow made it happen. And then by the second year, we're like, oh shoot, what are we gonna do about heat this year? Well, by then we had enough money to go buy a good heating system. And the heating system was more efficient than the propane that we were using. So therefore it literally, lowered our monthly costs, improving our profitability to the point where we could cover those capital expenditures. Again, this isn't necessarily a huge money-making business operation, but we at least now have enough money coming in to cover our costs. And we're not having phone calls among the owners saying, hey guys, we can't afford payroll this month. Who can pony up a few dollars to make it happen? Those calls are done. That hasn't happened in a while. And it hasn't happened in a while because we got over that hump. We got over that hump because we were persistent. I'm confident that you can talk to any business startup, anyone, and they're going to talk about the days that they could have and should have quit. And frankly, I don't think about them very often. I don't think about them very often because I know they're going to be there. And if anything, I practice persistence every time one of these comes up and make sure I don't use those as excuses to quit. I use those as hurdles that must be overcome because I know when I overcome those hurdles, amazing things can start to happen. And I've also seen enough proof in my own personal experience to know that giving in to excuses is destined for failure, but persistence leads to success. And it's difficult because you've heard this before. I'm not the first person to tell you need to be persistent. But until you do it yourself a few times, it's hard to accept because once again, at that moment that things are happening, the voices to quit are loud and the results are unknown. I mean, the idea that quitting is easy and going on is hard, but it's not like climbing a mountain where you say, yeah, the going's hard, but I can see the top of the mountain. You don't know what the top of the mountain is. It's like a cloud. You don't even know if there is at the top of the mountain. All you can do is hope that there is a top of the mountain. So you're not even completely confident there is a top of the mountain, and yet you still have to keep on going and climbing. That's what makes things challenging. The fun thing is, once you get through a few of them, you're still going to face the same reasons to quit. But you're going to start, watering down the urge to quit. And now the thought of quitting might show up sometimes in my mind, but the urge to quit doesn't even waste its effort because I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to quit. Anytime I quit, it's going to be a strategic decision because the results aren't what I was hoping they would be. Right? If I did the math and said, look, the market's not there, I'll quit. It's a good time to quit. What I'm not going to do, though, is quit because it's easy or quit because the going's tough. It's too easy to use these things as reasons to quit. I'm not going to let these type of things lead to quitting. I'm going to be persistent, I'm going to be successful, and I'm going to make things happen. And I urge you to do the same thing because persistence is a trait, but it's also a skill. You can practice it. You can get better at it. And yes, entrepreneurs and other successful people, they do face the fears. They do face the challenges. They do face the urges to quit. The difference is they don't. They don't quit. They don't accept the urge. They don't act on the urge. Instead, they sit there and say, you know what? I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make it happen. And they keep on going. And they keep on fighting through. And then 20 years later, people say, gosh, why was he so lucky? He wasn't lucky. He just didn't quit when everyone else did. Everyone else quit. It's easy to quit. Do you know how many people quit? Most people I know quit. Don't quit. Be persistent. Learn from the Energizer Bunny. Just keep going. Keep chugging away. Find that dream, find that goal, and make it happen. Okay? Make it happen. I don't care all the hurdles against you. I don't care about the reasons why you won't. I don't care about the things that come up. I don't care that your server failed. I don't care you can't afford heat. I don't care that your roof's leaking. No one else cares either. Right? I don't care that you can't find the capital. None of those are reasons to quit. They sound like reasons to quit, but they're not reasons to quit. And that's what you need to learn with persistence. You need to learn to keep on chugging. All right? So, hopefully you enjoyed this conversation. You need to be persistent. And when you're persistent, then you can go out there and make the impossible happen.
Learn more at MillionaireWho.com.
It's the morning drive.